It is time. Recently, Joey Beisinger, the anime man, he released the most pretentious anime tier list, and we're going to respond to it with our own. You know why? I think we can do better. I think his list wasn't pretentious enough. I think he had too many high rankers, just like the latest chapters of Tower of God. So here's how it works. We've got absolute favorite at the very top here. We got one of a kind, amazing, great, good, okay, and then all the way down to mediocre, bad, and no opinion at the bottom. And we have got quite an eclectic selection here, but basically we're just going to be going through this list. We're going to be ranking them according to what my tastes are and seeing if I can prove that I'm even more pretentious than the anime man. Right off the bat, Legend of the Galactic Heroes. Actually, haven't seen it. I have to put no opinion on this. It is on my watch list. Haven't gotten around to it yet. Same thing with Techno Lies. Also have not seen it yet. Monster. I have started the manga for Monster, but again, haven't seen the anime. This is already pretty pretentious because I haven't seen any of these. Cowboy Bebop. Now, if I recall correctly, I think Joey put it in great or amazing. Cowboy Bebop is pretty hard to forget. The music is legendary. I love like the episodic format of it. I love all the characters, especially Faye. Faye's backstory I think is very interesting and very tragic. I want to be honest, there are some sleeper episodes. There are a couple episodes that are kind of sleeper. There's like a couple episodes focused on Jet about his like ex-wife or something. Not that interesting. Let's put it in great, because I really think it's a great show. Ending is legendary. The first couple episodes are legendary, like establishing the main characters. Definitely up there as like one of the all-time classics, but not one of my favorites really. Mononoke, also haven't seen this. It is on my watch list. Evangelion, peak. I can't remember what Joey put this in. I think he put it in amazing. I'm gonna put this in one of a kind. There simply is no other anime which is like Evangelion. There probably isn't a single episode of Evangelion that I don't enjoy. The characters are probably some of the most iconic anime characters ever created. The directing as well, like Hideaki Anno's directing style is just so electric. Every time I watch an Evangelion episode, I just get pumped up, especially like the military sequences. The ending, obviously controversial. It was one of those things where at the time it was very controversial. Nobody liked it. Even the original final two episodes, episodes 25 and 26, I think they're some of the most creative ways of like depicting like a character deconstruction. It captures what was going on at the time in the real world with like the production of the show. It also manages to portray like what is happening inside of instrumentality during the final movie once the end of Evangelion came out. I think it's really cool that we get like the two versions of the ending. You really just can't go wrong. If you haven't seen Evangelion, watch it. Toradora. I'm actually going to disagree with the anime man here because Toradora is probably one of the most goated romance shows I've seen. I liked it way more than Golden Time. Taiga's like one of my favorite characters. Ryuji's a great character. All the side characters are great. The blue-haired chick, whose name I can't remember, she's great. I know that Joey and a lot of the boys, they love Golden Time and they say that it's better than Toradora. But I honestly feel like even though it takes place in high school, I feel like the story is just slightly more mature. The main things I remember liking about Golden Time are Coco and then Bonri. Their relationship is great, but all the side characters in Golden Time, I was like, I can't remember a single one of their names. I can't remember a single one of their arcs. There's a lot of great elements of Golden Time, but I just think Toradora is better. Oh, and the Ghost Bonri stuff, that was just so bad. It like really ruined like the latter half of the story for me. But Toradora, yeah, it's just classic. I'm gonna put it in, I'm gonna put Toradora in great. It's really great. Samurai Champloo. I'm kind of on the fence with Samurai Champloo on whether it's better than Cowboy Bebop or not. I know that Joey said it was better than Cowboy Bebop. I'm slightly inclined to agree. I think there are aspects of Cowboy Bebop that are executed better, but overall I think the characters in Samurai Champloo are just more fun. And there's some episodes in Samurai Champloo that I specifically remember. Like there's an episode where I think Mugen is his name. There's like an episode centered on him where he like gets beat and knocked unconscious and like falls into a river, and they play like there's like this whole sequence where they're playing like some ancient Ryukyuan singing, and I just remember that sticking with me. I thought it was so artistic, and of course you can't go wrong with the iconic soundtrack. It basically started the lo-fi hip-hop trend. Like without Samurai Champloo, we wouldn't have those videos of like chill beats anime girl listens to lo-fi hip-hop and studies. Like we wouldn't have those without the show. I want to put it in great. I want to put it like the top of great. Actually, you know what? Toradora, amazing. I'm going back to it. Whenever I go back and revisit Toradora, it just makes me nostalgic. It just makes me feel those vibes, you know? Hunter x Hunter. I'm going to say no opinion on this because I haven't finished it yet. The only opinion I have is that I think the first arc is very difficult to get through. The first like 20 to 40 episodes where they're just doing like the training arc, it's very, very slow. So I kind of put that on hold until I am interested in going back and watching a shonen show again. Wolf Children, peak. It's peak. Wolf Children is one of my absolute favorite movies ever made. period, not even just anime, like movies altogether. It just captures motherhood, and it captures the difficulties of like raising a family and raising these two kids. Like them being wolves is not even really relevant to the story. It's sort of like this unique, cute little aspect at the beginning. The ending just made me cry. It's such an amazing movie. Probably my favorite movie by Mamoru Hosoda. Definitely most underrated anime films in my opinion. What is this? No opinion. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I'm not sure whether this is saying like every season or just like the first 2 seasons. The first 2 seasons are really great. I love the introduction of Jonathan. I love the introduction of Joseph. They're both hilarious. There are so many great memes that come out of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Part 5 and Part 4 are probably my favorite anime adaptations. I'm right in the middle of finishing Part 6. Yeah, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, you just can't beat it. Like the colors, the memes, the hilarious fights, the iconic fashion, the iconic designs, and the music. The music is so good too. You just can't beat it. I'm putting JoJo's Bizarre Adventure in amazing. Attack on Titan, a lot of people didn't like the ending, but I absolutely loved it. I thought the ending was amazing. It had a couple of moments that were they were a little rushed. They could have been executed a little better. But honestly, I think it's going to age just like the end of Evangelion did. I think in the next 10, 15 years, people are going to look back on this ending and be like, this is one of the greatest endings of all time. One of the greatest things I've ever seen. Season 1, Season 2, Season 3, Season 4, all the way through Attack on Titan was incredible. It's some of the most incredible music ever. It single-handedly got me interested in listening to orchestral speed rock, and the animation and the characters, it's just so badass. The world building and the politics, there are so many elements of AOT which you can have a multiple hours long discussion surrounding. Not even just the fact that it got as popular as it did, but the fact that its characters and their decisions and the world that the characters found themselves in created such intense moral and political and societal debate among not just like regular anime fans, but anybody who had seen the show. Yeah, I mean, it's one of the all-time greats, and it's one of my favorites. I'm putting it in one of a kind, right alongside Evangelion. This is the Snafu show, my romance, whatever it's called. This has been on my watch list for a long time, but again, no opinion, haven't seen it. Katanagatari, I have kind of an interesting story with. I love the regular Monogatari series. I picked up Katanagatari thinking, oh, it's Nisio Isin, it's going to be, just as amazing. It has, I think, hour-long episodes, or maybe 45 minutes. I think they're 45-minute long episodes, but this kind of detracted from it for me. It definitely has a super unique and memorable art style. It has pretty memorable and unique characters. The whole shtick is that the main guy is kind of one of those guys where like he doesn't feel anything. He's like a living human weapon. Over the course of the show, he gradually like develops feelings. It's definitely a good show, and maybe it's just because I haven't seen it in forever, but there's a lot of parts of it I just don't remember. It's not like a super memorable show aside from the art style. So for that reason, I think I'm just going to put it in good. Devil's a Part-Timer, no opinion. Haven't seen it. Code Geass. I'm literally like in the middle of watching this. I put it on hold because I did my trip to Japan and I kind of stopped watching it. I'm like halfway through the last season, but as far as I'm concerned, this is I'm gonna put this in amazing because Code Geass, from what I've seen so far, Lelouch, all the other characters, they're just so like fun and super interesting, and I love the world building. It's very similar to Attack on Titan in that regard. Like it's very political, it's very action heavy. Lelouch is such a great character because he just has to come up with all these schemes, and it's very obvious early on that like his number one hubris is his pride. Like he basically thinks that like nobody can outsmart him, nobody can take him down, and then he backs himself into a corner, and then somebody has to come save his ass. Maybe once I see the ending, because I've heard over and over and over again that the ending is peak, that it'll become one of a kind or one of my absolute favorites, but for now, I'm putting it amazing. Tatami Galaxy. Here's the thing with Tatami Galaxy. I think I gave this like a 9. It kind of reminds me of Mob Psycho in terms of the main character's growth. The main character, his name is literally just Watashi, which means like I or me or myself. Basically, the whole gist is like Watashi, every episode, like he reaches the end of like whatever he was doing in that episode, and then he kind of gets like sent back in time and then like relives his college days again. So it constantly like time loops through him going through college, like choosing different paths that he could have taken until he finally finds one where like he's happy. Super interesting concept, incredible art style, very, very unique, very fun. My favorite episode or scene from this is there is a entire episode where like he and this like fratty kind of dude have like a drinking contest. And so they just keep like throwing back shots and throwing back wine glasses and throwing back shots. And it's just this montage of the two guys going back and forth and drinking and being like, I will beat you, I won't fail. And every time they take a drink and it switches to a new frame, the art style gets more and more messed up and more like difficult to parse. Like how as they're getting more drunk, the world is getting harder to understand. I would put this in amazing, honestly. It's definitely up there. It's not like one of my favorite ever, but it's definitely amazing. And none of these are in any specific order, by the way. I'm not going to bother to do that. Hyoka, no opinion. Haven't seen it. I'm just so pretentious that I skipped it. Joking, of course. Don't kill me. Don't kill me. Hyoka fans, don't kill me. Gurren Lagann. Gurren Lagann, I have kind of a tough relationship with nowadays. It's one of those shows where it's so iconic that basically anytime you hear anyone talking about like getting into anime, it's one of those anime where people are like, you gotta watch it. The ending of the first arc and then the entire second arc, that's all like 10 out of 10. But whenever I go back and rewatch Gurren Lagann, I have a hard time with the beginning. The first like 2 episodes are amazing, and then a lot of it in the middle is kind of fillery. There's just like weird anime tropes that I don't really like anymore. The first half of the show is probably like a 7 or an 8. It is kind of one of a kind in a lot of respects. Shimon is an incredible main character. His character growth is amazing. Kamina, obviously a great character. I'm going to put it in amazing because it definitely still holds up in a lot of respects, but there are a couple of elements which kind of detract from it for me nowadays. I think its spiritual successor, Kill la Kill, is actually significantly better. Kill la Kill, I think just nails every single thing that I love about Gurren Lagann without having the elements of Gurren Lagann that I think haven't aged as well. Moving on from that, we've got Non Non Biyori. Haven't seen it. I have been to some of the countryside areas in Japan, so I can definitely understand the way this appeals to people that, like Joey said, people who grew up in that area or people who live there now. But yeah, I haven't seen it. Same thing with Welcome to the NHK. I'm scared to watch this show because I've heard like how depressing it is and how much it focuses on isolation and loneliness as an adult. I'm just worried it's gonna absolutely destroy me. I do want to watch it someday, but I'm just nervous. It's been on my watch list for like literally 10 years, and I feel like I'm at the age now where I would actually appreciate it. Whereas if I watched it like when I was in high school or even college, I don't really necessarily know if I would have appreciated it back then. Madoka Magica. Interesting factoid about this show. I think if you search for Magical Girl Madoka Magica in my anime list, this will still come up, even though that's not actually the title. The title is Puella Madoka Magica. I think Madoka Magica is one of a kind. A lot of people, I think when they watch Madoka Magica, all they remember about it is the twist in episode 3. But I think that Madoka Magica just has so many elements going for it. All the characters are incredibly interesting. Madoka herself is interesting. Homura is super interesting. The blue-haired girl, whose name I can't remember, Sayaka. She is super interesting as a character. The amount of like psychological stress that these characters go through and the way it's represented visually was so compelling to me. This is probably, next to the Monogatari series, one of Shaft's best visual works. Every time that they enter into the weird like witch magical zone or whatever it's called, and all the art becomes like paper mache. The directing and the animation and the visuals of Madoka Magica still to this day are kind of unlike anything else I've ever seen. And in addition to like the deconstructive Faustian narrative elements of the show, visually it's just so incredible. Ping Pong the animation, I gotta agree with Joey on this one. This is definitely one of a kind. I might put an absolute favorite. I have never seen any show which looks like this. A lot of people are put off by the art style. It's like the peak of what a sports anime should be. It doesn't go on for too long. It's only 12 or 13 episodes. Music by Kensuke Ushio, one of my favorites, one of the GOATs. Yes, it's about ping pong, but it's really about the characters. Every single character that they introduce has such a unique, amazing character arc. They all go through significant growth. There's this episode right in the middle, which is like a Christmas episode where like they show each of the characters like spending Christmas in their own way. Some are out getting drunk, some are spending time with family, some are out on a date. Some of them are, you know, spending it alone, like in their house without anybody there. It's a super emotional episode. It has incredible atmosphere, probably one of the best adaptations I've ever seen. Anyone who doesn't watch it because of the art style, like you're really missing out. Ergo Proxy, have not seen this one. It's been on my watch list a long time, but I've heard a lot of people say like this is like an edge fest. No real opinion, I haven't seen it, so. Shigatsu wa Kimi no Uso or Your Lie in April. Honestly, mid. I'm gonna say it, mid. It's Crybait. The main thing that I think is likable about this show is the arc of the main character playing piano. Now, he doesn't literally go deaf, but like he basically lives in a world of gray and he can't like hear the notes anymore. That element of the story is nice, but I really think this show is mediocre. I really don't like how predictable it is, like the way that the story ends. It's a very cheesy and kind of out of nowhere romance in my opinion. Like I feel like this girl never shows that she likes the main character like at all throughout the story. There's this one side girl character that I really don't like. She's kind of like a mean person throughout most of the story, but we're supposed to like feel bad for her. I really don't like that the way that the story handles the abuse and the trauma narrative. I don't know, maybe I'm like misremembering it, but there's this whole thing where the main character, he was being abused by his mother growing up and then she passed away and he's kind of carrying that with him. And there's like this moment where it doesn't justify like the abuse that she did, but there's like this moment where it's like, oh, she was right. Maybe I'm misremembering, but it just, the way it was presented really rubbed me the wrong way. The very last thing, which I will nitpick about this show with, is the gag comedy, the physical gags. I really, really don't like because a lot of it is violent. That might sound stupid, but in the context of the narrative where this main character has suffered from physical abuse his whole life, and then a lot of the gags are like him getting punched in the face and like him bleeding and stuff. It just really rubbed me the wrong way. It was like this almost narrative dissonance, like this narrative disconnect between him like getting physically like hit and stuff and then his past being like that he was physically abused. It just really rubbed me the wrong way. I think it's mediocre. Super overrated in my opinion. I didn't even cry at the ending. Fate Stay Night. This is Unlimited Blade Works. Honestly, I think Unlimited Blade Works, the adaptation, is kind of underrated. It's not like the most incredible thing you'll ever see. It's fairly predictable. It's fairly like standard Fate fare. I'm not really like a big Fate fan, but I appreciate it for what it is. The animation is godlike. Unlimited Blade Works, more like Unlimited Effects Works, Unlimited Digital Effects. So I'll say it's good. Steins Gate. This one might be slightly controversial. This used to be like the pinnacle of like, oh, I'm a pretentious anime fan. It used to be very like, oh, you're not smart enough to understand this show, or like, oh, you stopped before episode 7 or whatever, like whichever episode like the plot twist happens, like, oh, you don't understand it. Steins Gate, it's a very good show. I will admit that. Narratively, it has very few flaws. The only thing about it where it hasn't aged super well is in the animation and the art. It's very, very 2011, especially with the color palette. I know that the point is it's kind of supposed to be like this kind of digital looking grayscale, but I really think that the art has not aged super well, especially in comparison to the art from the visual novel, which is stunning. The character designs, especially from the visual novel, are just gorgeous. And I really don't think the Steins Gate adaptation captures how incredible the character designs actually are. And the ending is good, but I also think it was slightly, I think it was kind of predictable. I'd probably say it's great. I think when I was younger and I watched it, I would say it's amazing because it has all these incredible narrative twists and turns. But for me, it's just not as exciting going back on like a rewatch. Fate Zero, similarly to Steins Gate, I think I'd also put Fate Zero in great. It's definitely better than Fate Unlimited Blade Works. It's less tropey, written by Gen Urobuchi, the Earl Butcher, super bloody, super interesting. And I absolutely love the arc of Kotomine in Fate Zero. There's just something I relish in seeing him be so unabashedly evil and basically coming to realize like, oh, this is the kind of person I am. Like, I'm the kind of person that enjoys like cruelty and killing people and doing horrible things to people. Saber is okay in Fate Zero. She kind of gets pushed to the side a little bit. And then the main guy, Kiritsugu, he has kind of an interesting arc. The art still looks amazing for being made in 2011. These two anime were like peak 2011 anime here. Gintama, honestly, haven't seen it. Probably never will. Gintama, I feel, is one of those shows where you kind of had to grow up watching it. Otherwise, you just don't get into it. Or you have to be like the kind of person that loves shonen, like One Piece fans. Mushishi. Mushishi is peak. It's such a spiritual and relaxing show. I think that the anime really elevates itself way above the manga with the atmosphere and the music and the very nice detailed animation. Ginkgo is one of my favorite protagonists because he just has like these very unique hidden depths, which I don't think a lot of people appreciate, and he's just super cool. Mushishi's definitely not for everybody. It's very episodic. It's very slow, very slow burn show. It's very like calm. You would really have to like sit down and relax to like put it on and watch it. It's the only show where For a good reason. I've struggled to like stay awake while watching it because it's just that relaxing. And I'm sure to a lot of people that means that it's boring, but hey, this is a pretentious list. And so I'm just going to be pretentious and say that it's peak. Don't know what this is. And here we go. I can't even disagree with Joey on this one. Bakemonogatari, the Monogatari series as a whole, absolute favorite. There is not a single element of the show that I don't enjoy. The directing, the characters, the dialogue, the art style, the animation, the music. I have never had one show cram so many things that I like into one thing and have them all be cohesive together. Everything about Bakemonogatari and the Monogatari series in general, it's just amazing. All the characters are great. They're all extremely memorable. It's probably the hardest show for me to pick like a favorite character from because I just love every single character that much. Like their arcs and the way that they're written is so great. And the dialogue especially, like never have I seen before such witty and engaging banter. And it just makes the character relationships that much better. Not to mention the world building is pretty good. Like the whole oddity and spirituality thing it has going on. It's like perfect Shaft weirdness. And the character designs are, oh, they're just so good. It has like probably some of the best girls of any anime ever. It's definitely up there in terms of like being pretentious. A lot of the fan base is very much like, oh, you don't like it, you just don't understand it, you're not smart enough to understand the dialogue. It's definitely got a stigma like that, but I just love it. One of the very few anime to make me cry like multiple times. It's just that good. What is this? I don't even know what this is. No opinion. Nichijou, I watched like the first episode and I couldn't get super into it at the time. I'll definitely go back and watch it at some point, but still haven't seen it yet. Princess Mononoke, it kind of pisses me off that this is the only Ghibli film that's on this list. It's sort of like a random inclusion, but I think it's because Princess Mononoke is known for being like the snob, pretentious answer for like favorite Ghibli film. And you know what? I kind of agree. Princess Mononoke, incredible film, incredible Ghibli movie. It's not my favorite. I think there are other Ghibli films that are better. It's sort of like having your favorite Pixar film. Every single person has like what their favorite Ghibli movie is, and it's almost like any answer is an acceptable answer. Princess Mononoke, it's pretty up there. I'd probably give it a great. The main thing that I love about it is the fluidity in like the combat and the art, and I love Ashitaka, the main character. He has a really good arc. He's a great example of like positive masculinity in anime and in media in general, which I really like. And Mononoke as well, like a lot of Ghibli films, it has a lot of positive female character representation as well. One Punch Man, honestly, it's just good. Has some of the best action animation and it still holds up to this day. The first season is still super funny, but it's not like some art house masterpiece, you know? It's not like the greatest thing I'll ever see or that I'll ever remember. The main thing that I don't love about One Punch Man is a lot of the character writing I think is pretty underwhelming. And not speaking for the webcomic. The webcomic I think is actually the best version of One Punch Man. It's really, really cool to see how one's art evolves as the comic goes on. And I've read the manga for this too, but I think the narrative changes in the manga just aren't as interesting or compelling as they are in the webcomic, especially regarding like Garo and some of the later characters. The art in both the anime and the manga are amazing, but I think the webcomic is the best version. K-On! I've only seen the first season of K-On! And I've only seen it once. It was kind of one of those shows I watched like in the background. Like I wasn't necessarily fully like paying attention. I think I'll just put K-On! In good. Maybe my opinion on that will change when I go back and do a rewatch of it, because I want to rewatch the first season before I finish it. I really don't remember a lot of what happens in the first season. Animation is super good. Characters are super cute and memorable. Yeah, I mean, that's about pretty much all I had to say about it. Fooly Cooly. I mean, what can you say about Fooly Cooly that hasn't been said before? The dub is amazing. The sub is amazing. All the characters are iconic. It went on to inspire so many things. This is pretty much the beginning of like where all the Studio Gainax and the Gurren Lagann and all those tropes like started. It has so many memorable moments and episodes. The purple-haired girl, I love her arc. I love the episode where television guy is out by the church and he sprouts the wings. There's just something about Fooly Cooly which you really cannot capture in words. It's just one of those timeless, one-of-a-kind classics that you really just can't replicate. And it pisses me off that they tried to make like those two spiritual sequels just to capitalize on the name of it. Those were just soulless, in my opinion. The whole point of Fooly Cooly, the entire creation of it was the artist's vision. The reason that like there's guitars in Fooly Cooly is because the creator thought guitars were cool. That's the whole point. The whole point is that it's just this one few artists' vision come to life. And the animation still holds up today. Despite how old it is, it's still just one of the most interesting and incredible pieces of the anime medium. I go back and forth on it being like in my top 10. It's absolutely one of a kind. Aria, again, haven't seen it. Konosuba, I don't think is like a pretentious show to like at all. It's very, very, very popular now. It's probably one of the most popular isekai now. I mean, maybe back when it first came out, it was kind of like a hidden gem because it got so much attention and so much promotion, like from AniTubers specifically. I think that bolstered its popularity massively. And it's arguably probably like as popular as something like ReZero now. I mean, Megumin and Aqua are two of like the most popular main characters like ever from anime. Has really good fan service, has really good character designs, has really good comedy. It's great. Konosuba's great. There's very few anime that have made me laugh as much as Konosuba have. So yeah, I'm perfectly fine putting that in great. Shinwa Rakugo something Rakugo Shinju. This is, I think, a pretty pretentious pick. It's one of those shows where like, if you're a super like artsy fartsy person, you'll definitely like it. Honestly though, I just thought it was okay. There's a lot of stuff about it which I can understand why people love it. A lot of it just wasn't memorable to me. I don't remember any of the characters' names. I don't remember their arcs. The only thing I remember is like the Rakugo scenes, and then there were these two guys who were best friends. His best friend like gets with the woman that this guy loves or something to that effect. I don't know. It really just didn't stick with me. I really didn't understand like what all the hype was about it. That's probably going to be like my hottest take of this list. Is just saying that it's okay. Give it the JJK treatment. My Hero Academia. So let me preface by saying the first two seasons I would probably put in good, actually. Good or okay. The first season is pretty standard shonen stuff. It has some nice emotional beats. The second season, the tournament arc, super memorable fight scenes, especially the one between Todoroki and Deku. A lot of people have touched on this before, but even though the fight scenes are very simple, the reason that the fight scenes in season 2 are memorable is because they carry these intense emotional character moments with them, like the fight with Ochako and Bakugo as well. Those two seasons are great. After that though, mediocre. After season 2, I really think it starts to go downhill. I feel like the world just didn't have enough behind it. I feel like out the gate, the idea of them all being like superheroes was good, but the villains are just so boring and uninteresting in my opinion. A lot of the side characters become just like very one note. They become forgettable. And the manga suffers from the same issues. I remember, I think I read up to like 250 chapters of manga. Deku starts to get all these new powers, which I really didn't like. It wasn't like a necessary addition in my opinion. And like I said, all the side characters, they just become bland. ReZero is bad. Actually, this might be my most controversial take because the ReZero fandom is absolutely rabid. I remember watching ReZero and I hated it. I hate Subaru. I do not like him as a main character. I don't care that the point is that he's supposed to be annoying in the beginning and then he grows out of it. I just do not think he is a relatable or an interesting main character. A lot of ReZero to me is just suffering porn. The default that I always see fans go back on is like, oh, he suffered so much, but trying to put Subaru on an equivalent to a character like Guts or a character like Eren, it just felt, especially in the first season, it just rings hollow to me. It's very, very shallow, very hollow form of character development. He goes through this time loop stuff and it's supposed to be like, oh, he's growing as a character, but for the most of the first season, he doesn't grow as a main character. Like he suffers a lot, and I do not like the voice acting for Subaru either. It's like the pinnacle of voice over acting in my opinion, where he's just like, he sounds like he's gargling nails like every time something bad is happening to him. It's like, stop, just stop. It's just so annoying to me. The isekai world is just not memorable at all in my opinion. Super generic isekai fantasy world, similar to every other isekai fantasy world that I've seen. A lot of people simp over Rem, but it's just because she simps for Subaru and Subaru is a self-insert. And same thing with Emilia. Emilia really strikes me in the beginning as a character where she's very, very like wish fulfillment heavy, where it's like, Subaru convincing her to like fall in love with him, which I really, really don't like. She really is not into him in the first season. She just sees him as like some guy, and he simps over her so hard and tries to like force her to like him. I hated it. I just hated it, every single element of it. It's not so bad where I'd put it in the dog shit tier. It didn't like offend me. You know, it's not something where I'm like, this is like a blight on humanity or like a blight on the industry. I just don't think it's good. I think it's super, super overrated. Anohana, this is another show which has been on my watch list for like probably 10 years at this point, but I still haven't seen it. The only thing that I always remember about this title whenever I see it is that it makes people emotional and that it is Porter Robinson's favorite anime. This is one of those shows where it's been on my watch list for so long that I feel like now my taste has evolved to the point where if I watched it today, I wouldn't like it. Even though I'm sure if I watched it back when I was like 15, I would have loved it. Mob Psycho 100. Mob Psycho 100 is an incredible show. I think it was designed to just be a success. The decision by Studio Bones to kind of do like translation of the original art style, I think was an ingenious choice. It definitely makes it stand out way, way more than One Punch Man. The character growth that Mob goes through in season 1 is amazing. The art is amazing. The animation is amazing. And I haven't seen season 3 yet, so just like Joey. The thing I didn't love about season 2 is that I feel like with Mob, it kind of treads the same ground a little bit. Mob kind of feels like he's already developed. In season 1, it's about him like changing and becoming a better person and learning to work on himself, challenge himself and do stuff that he's not comfortable doing. All that stuff is great. But season 2, even though the animation is slightly better, I just didn't think was as memorable like narratively as season 1. I would say it is probably great. Lip Flappers. Lip Flappers is a very unknown anime for a lot of people. I don't know if it's like a pretentious pick. It's definitely like if you choose it, you're kind of like, oh, it's like a hidden gem. I would say Flip Flappers is just okay. There's a lot of elements to it which I feel are not super fleshed out. A lot of the side characters, they don't get any development really. I don't even remember any of the characters' names. The most memorable thing about Flip Flappers is the animation and the art style, which is really nice. But I would say overall, it's just okay. It just didn't stick with me. March Comes In Like a Lion. This is one of my absolute favorites. There are very, very, very few shows like March Comes In Like a Lion. Right next to the Monogatari series, in my opinion, and they're both Shaft shows, so go figure. There are so many amazing sequences and shots in this show where it's just characters like monologuing or characters like talking to each other, or even the shogi matches themselves. There's just so many good things I can say about the show, and I do have a video up about it that I made about 2 years ago. Just like the Monogatari series, this is one of the few shows that has made me cry multiple times, multiple different episodes, because it's just that strong and it's just that impactful. The main character Rei and the side characters, they all have such amazing development, and Chika Umino, she's just so good at writing drama that doesn't feel ham-fisted. Like, it's very natural drama. Every single shogi match, you can tell how emotionally and mentally and physically too it affects each character. And outside of the shogi matches, this show is just about life. I watched it when I was going through like a similar circumstance as what the main character Rei goes through in the show, where he feels kind of stuck and almost like he is not worth people's time. And seeing him overcome his depression and overcome his like self-loathing throughout the show, it was just so amazingly impactful and relatable to me. When I went to Japan, I explicitly spent a day to go to the Chuo district in Tokyo, and I went to the famous Red Bridge. And when I got there, I was like holding back tears. And funny story, actually, I met this Japanese man there who looked to be probably about early 30s. In his hand, he was holding a copy of the Threegatsu no Lion manga. I walked up to him and I kind of, in my broken Japanese, initiated a conversation with him. And that is like a moment I'll never forget. Just having this amazing conversation with this complete stranger in a country that I had never been to before. Just randomly, we both had happened to come to this exact same spot for the exact same reason, because we were both inspired by the same show. Super amazing show. Go watch it if you haven't. And the bully arc. Everybody talks about the bully arc, but season 1 and season 2, both incredible. Kobayashi-san. I don't know. I might say this is amazing, actually. There's just something so fun and awesome about this show. The art is super, super cute. The animation is amazing from Kyoto Animation. Like, they did not need to go so hard in animating the action sequences and stuff in the show. You just can't not like the show. Just your amazing lesbian dragons. What is this show called? Something romance. I don't know. Haven't seen it. Sudazuri Children. Also haven't seen it. Made in Abyss. Great show. Really, really good. The music by Kevin Penkin is phenomenal. The animation is really, really good. This show has like 1 or 2 moments where I got a little teary-eyed. The only thing I don't love about Made in Abyss is I feel like the exploration of the world is a little too fast. They don't spend a lot of time in each layer of the abyss. And this show also has like some weird like kid fetish stuff in it, which I really wish they would have just cut out of the anime entirely. It's very toned down compared to the manga. I had to drop the manga because it gets kind of gross. But that's all I'll say about that. Your Name. I haven't seen Your Name, even though like everyone and their mother has seen this. I feel like disliking this is more pretentious than liking this movie because it's very like mainstream and popular. Overlord, again, haven't seen it. Oseki no Kuni, or Land of the Lustrous, is, in my opinion, one of kind. It would be even higher if they adapted more of the original source material. Oseki no Kuni is one of my favorite manga ever written. It has like, I would say, berserk level amounts of like existential suffering and trauma in it. There were parts of the story where the beauty of it and also like the terror of it struck me more than like the Oyasumi Punpun manga, which is notorious for being like one of the most traumatic and depressing experiences ever. I mean, the anime adaptation for this, I think, just knocked it out of the park. Even though it's a translation from like this gorgeous manga with these striking like black and white painterly panels, Studio Orange did an amazing job with the adaptation for this. It's probably one of the most beautiful 3D animations I've seen, and this might be unconfirmed, but I heard a rumor that the Into the Spider-Verse movie took some inspirations from this adaptation for like how they implemented the 3D animation. If that's true, is amazing. That speaks for itself. But definitely one of my favorite anime adaptations of all time of one of my favorite manga. If you haven't seen this, definitely go watch it. Don't be put off by the 3D animation. It's gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous anime. Girls Last Tour. I was very surprised at how high Joey put Girls Last Tour because honestly, it was just okay. It definitely is a vibe. It definitely has a really good atmosphere to it. But other than that, I didn't think it was super memorable as an anime adaptation. I'd like to go and read the manga for it because I feel like it might be better experienced in manga format. Plays Further Than the Universe. Also have not seen this. It has been on my watch list for a long time, ever since Giguk made his video about it like however many years ago. I will watch it at some point. Darling in the Franxx. Darling in the Franxx is dog shit. I despise this anime with every fiber of my being. I cannot explain hard enough how much I did not like this show when I first watched it. I remember from the very beginning when Trigger and A1 were collaborating, and I do not like A1 Pictures. They are probably like my least favorite studio, which I mean, they've made some good stuff recently like Kaguya, but for the longest time back when this show came out, they were not one of my favorite studios. So that was like the red flag of like, I don't know if I'm gonna like this. They've got Trigger on it, but I don't know. In my opinion, this is like Trigger's worst show, easily. It takes every element of like the stuff that Trigger does and boils it down to like all of its worst elements. I hate the main character. He has absolutely zero character growth or like zero interesting personality traits. He's literally a blank slate. They have like this pregnancy side arc and this one kid that like does a bunch of drugs. 02. Everybody loves 02 because she's a cute waifu. I hate 02 because she is a fucking abusive ass partner. She abuses the shit out of Hiro and then is like, oh, you just gotta be a man and like you gotta tame me or whatever. I hated everything about Darling in the Franxx. The animation is trash compared to most Trigger works. The story is generic, half-baked. It feels like a watered-down ripoff of like any other Gainax or Trigger work. It steals like so many things from like Evangelion and does them like 500 times worse. This is like the Drake of anime. If Ava and Gurren Lagann and Kill la Kill are like the Kendrick, this is the Drake. That's how I feel about Darling in the Franxx. And the ending sucks. The ending is awful. Even people who liked Darling in the Franxx didn't like the ending. but I think it was terrible just all the way through. Ugh. I hate this show. Dog water. Okay, what is this? I don't know. I just don't know what it is. I haven't seen it. Serial Experiments Lane. This is, okay, this is probably, I don't remember what Joey picked, but this is probably the most pretentious show on this list. Maybe this or like Perfect Blue. I'm gonna say no opinion because I've gotten like halfway through this show. I didn't drop it, but I put it on hold because I just wasn't in the mood for the kind of show that Serial Experiments Lane is. It's a very, very slow burn, very like existential, weird show. I just wasn't in that kind of like headspace at the time when I was watching it. And I didn't want to like finish it, not remember half of what happens and then like misrate it. So for now, I'm just going to say no opinion. But this is definitely one of those shows where like if you're kind of an old head in the anime space, it's definitely one of your favorites. Like back in the 90s and the early 2000s, this was like a show that was all the rage in niche anime groups, niche anime fandom. It did pretty much predict the future. It predicted like people living like terminally online. I Want to Eat Your Pancreas. Also haven't seen this, so no opinion. Slime Isekai. Also haven't seen this because, I don't know, just like I said before, I'm really not into like isekai shows that much. I might go back and watch it on like a rainy day. Same with Goblin Slayer. I tried to read the manga for Goblin Slayer, but I just couldn't get into it. Episode 1 was like rage bait for a lot of people. It kind of pissed a lot of people off because it had like some controversial material in there. Goblin Slayer kind of kicked off what is now this like resurgence of traditional fantasy anime like Free Ren and like Dungeon Meshi, where instead of it being isekai, it's more like traditional pure fantasy, similar to like D&D. Bunny Girl Senpai, again, no opinion. Man, I have a lot of shows on here with no opinion. I mean, some of these have been in my backlog for so long, and I'm like even worse than Joey when it comes to like not watching anime anymore. Only thing that kind of puts me off about seeing this is I've heard, or from what I've seen, is that it kind of rips on the Monogatari series a little bit in terms of like the style and like how it's very like, oh, every arc is like a new girl gets introduced. So I'm not sure if I would like it or not. I'm not sure if I would watch it and be like, oh, this is similar to what I already like, or if I would be like, oh, this is a ripoff of Monogatari. Not saying that's what it is, but that's kind of like why I've been wary to actually go and watch it. Grand Blue. Honestly, I'm just going to say Grand Blue is just okay. The Grand Blue manga is one of my favorite manga. I watched the anime first and I thought, it's kind of okay. Then I went back and I watched the manga and I realized the manga is fucking hilarious. The anime though, I really didn't think it was as funny. The way that a lot of the jokes in the manga are executed are very like, they're page turn jokes. So you turn the page and there's like some reveal or some funny drawing. And the pace of the manga, I think just is better than the anime. I don't know. This adaptation just didn't live up to the manga in my opinion. I think the jokes just don't land as well. Clan Ad. I gotta put no opinion on this. I haven't seen After Story. I've seen like 7 episodes of the original Clan Ad and I dropped it. It's just one of those shows where I think because I didn't watch it when I was younger, I just can't watch it now. A lot of the story just doesn't like make sense. They keep like introducing all these characters and then the characters will talk as if this character has already been introduced. And I was like, what is going on? A lot of early Clan Ad is just cringe. It's very, very like 2000s anime. I don't know. Maybe I'll go back and like muster through it just to see like what all the hype is about with After Story, but I just couldn't do it. It was so like cheesy and corny. Violet Evergarden. So Violet Evergarden, I think is, I'm just going to say good. I think Violet Evergarden is slightly overrated. There are some episodes which are kind of cry bait in my opinion. Like they're designed to make you cry, not because you're like relating to what's going on in the story or the characters, but just because like they're directed in such a way where like, oh, the music swells and the characters all get emotional. The animation is top notch. Some of the stuff with the animation is kind of weird. Like there's this very like depth of field thing that they do in this show, which I don't love, which kind of makes the show hard to look at sometimes. It's almost like it's out of focus. It's a good show overall. Violet has like a good arc, even though it's like obvious what her arc is going to be the entire time. If you want to like spend a weekend crying, then it's a great show for that. Zombieland Saga. The only reason this show is memorable is because of the rap scene that got like memed really hard. The show is just kind of bad. None of the characters are really memorable. The only memorable parts are the rap scene and the very beginning where the girl gets fucking hit by the car. It's definitely a unique premise, but I don't know. I just don't think this anime adaptation stuck the landing. A lot of the mid and later episodes use like really bad, ugly CGI for like some of the dance sequences. As an idol show, it just really doesn't hold up. If it wasn't for like the memeable aspects of this show, it would have been forgotten about by now. A silent voice, again, no opinion. Part of the reason I've held off on watching this is just because I don't love a lot of like high school drama stuff anymore now that I'm an adult, but I'll watch it someday. I'm sure it's a great film. Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. This is again one of those things where I feel like the pretentious answer is to say it's not as good as people say it is, and that's exactly where I'm gonna go. It is a great show. That I cannot deny. There are definitely some aspects to it I don't love that I think are a little overrated. A lot of people love it because it's the complete package. It has good characters, good fight scenes, good world building, cool character designs, cool power system. There's just a couple of things about Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood that hold it back from being like a masterpiece in my opinion. It has a lot of like 2000s anime gag humor in it, which I really don't like, where it's like, oh, all the characters like turn chibi, and then Winry hits Edward in the head with a wrench, and then he gets mad because somebody calls him short. Like the amount of short jokes, it's just not funny. I really wish they would have trimmed down on the gags a little bit because they feel so outdated. A lot of the humor, it feels like a relic of like the era that Fullmetal Alchemist came out in. The only other thing I don't love is the ending. I feel like the ending, even though it has a lot of cool moments, some of it feels very rushed. There's this whole sequence where Edward and a bunch of other characters are fighting those weird like clone doll dummy things, which was a weird part of the story in general, in my opinion. It was like, it almost feels like at that point the mangaka kind of ran out of ideas for like where the homunculi's plan was going. I feel like the homunculi were interesting all the way up until it just kind of became like a humans versus the homunculi story at the very end, which made the conflict a little less interesting to me. And then some of the final fight scenes, it just feels like they throw a bunch of powers and then the good guys win. Alphonse though, goated character. He's the best character. If you don't like Alphonse, don't even talk to me. Promised Neverland. Honestly, this is pretty mediocre in my opinion. Even before the train wreck that was season 2 where they just bombed it and dumpster fired it, even the first season I just thought was okay. This show really, I think, kind of blows the twist way too early. I'm pretty sure it reveals the twist in like the first or second episode. I think it would have been way better if they revealed parts of the twist in increments. And the least believable part of it to me is like that these like 9, 10, 11-year-old kids are this smart. That's like the goofiest part of the show to me, is like they want you to take the narrative like super seriously, and then you have like these 11-year-olds that are like, oh, actually I've been planning this for the past 5 years, like ever since I was 3 years old, and I calculated all this in my head. Big brain moment, like I've 5-headed this, and I'm like, this is so just unreal, the shit that these kids are coming up with. That part of the show I didn't love. Kaguya-sama, the anime adaptation. Now, I will unabashedly say, Kaguya-sama manga, I love the manga. Even funnier than the anime in my opinion. The only thing I'll say about the manga is that after the halfway point of the manga, there are some parts that really drag. As for the anime, I think that seasons 2 and 3 are probably the best parts of the anime. Season 1 was good, but it wasn't like the greatest thing ever. I think I gave it like a 7 out of 10. So I'll just say it was good. I honestly don't think this is a pretentious show to like. It's probably like the most popular romance anime right now. And I really think it set the standard for like just what a good lighthearted romance looks like going forward for like anime's future, like for appealing to new fans. Because a lot of romance anime are super corny, and Kaguya does a really good job being like a very balanced adaptation, very balanced like series in general. Like it doesn't have a bunch of like stupid otaku shit in it. What is this? I haven't seen that. I haven't seen these either. Maybe I'm not pretentious. Maybe I haven't seen half these freaking pretentious ass shows like Monster, Ergo Proxy, like Serial Experiments Lane, all like the edgelord shit. I haven't seen like half this crap. I might move Ping Pong down one just because I'm reserving like absolute favorites for like the top of the top. Utena, So I'm actually in the middle of watching Utena. I have it on hold right now. I haven't finished it yet, so I can't really give an opinion on it. My guess is that I'll probably love it because I love its style and its atmosphere, at least from what I've seen so far. Perfect Blue, same thing. Haven't seen it yet. Perfect Blue speaks for itself. Like, you can say you're pretentious for liking this, but in like Western Hollywood films, saying something like Requiem for a Dream is your favorite definitely comes off as like a pretentious answer. But that movie was like borderline inspired by Perfect Blue. But I don't know if it would be as pretentious to say that Perfect Blue is like one of your favorite anime. And then Hibike Euphonium, also haven't seen it, which I probably won't watch it. I just have no desire, so no opinion on that. But there we go. That's my list, I guess. So let me know what you thought. Was I more pretentious? Was I not more pretentious? Did you hate me for any of these takes? Did you hate me for the fact that I haven't seen half these supposedly pretentious shows yet? But I will. Someday I will. In 20 years, probably. I guess that's it. That's my list. But leave a comment, smash the like button, get that algorithm going, and I will catch you guys in the next one.